So what I'm doing here is converting a Red 5 cast to a master, basically, for a Red 1. There's a fairly significant differences, especially on the front of the fuselage, both top and bottom, in the scribing, and obviously all the little armor plate chits are all different, as well as the positioning of the laser cannons. So here I've already filled the seam lines or the scribe lines that need to go away with super glue, and I'm just sanding it all flat. That's Durablock. That's a Durablock sanding block. It's an automotive company with just 3M stick it roll adhesive sanding paper. Sanding is always tricky. You want to straighten every time you sand. You want to try to make it better than it already is, and if it's already pretty perfect, you can easily make something bad or ruin it, or make something curved or rounded when it shouldn't be. So the only really way to know what to do with sanding is just to do it a lot and really pay attention to what surfaces you're making more flat and which surfaces you're making round intentionally. This is to me a fine surface primer gray. Using this to fill sanding scratches, because when you're sanding down the CA glue, you need to use a fairly rigid and fairly coarse sandpaper. Otherwise, you just end up sanding waves or grooves into what you're using. So you need to use, a 100, 120-ish grit for that. But that puts sanding scratches in, so you have to fill the sanding scratches. And the fine surface primer, well, it says fine, is good for filling sanding scratches. If you want to do virtually no filling or flattening, this is not the primer to use. This primer is very good for, let's say, high quality resin or 3D prints, because it will do a certain amount of leveling and a certain amount of filling. But you would only put it on if your intent was to basically sand it all off, or sand most of it off, which is what I'm going to be doing. Here, using a drill bit to rough in the new position of the photon tube openings. This drill bit's a little bit smaller than the actual size. The resin plastic body drills pretty easy. I'm more just concentrating here on positioning the tip of the drill, and I'm not pushing at all. After drilling it at an angle like that, the part I'm cutting here is really thin. So you want to make a nice straight-in cut on what the final shape will be from the surface, and then you can clean up the hole on the inside later. Here I am going in with a reamer, getting closer to the final shape. There you can see the hole that goes all the way through into the body, so I'll have to add some epoxy putty later on the inside, so there's no hole through it. This is a Hasegawa scribing tool. The CA I'm using is a Flexi 5K from VMS. Works really good. It gets a little crunchy, maybe a little too brittle for my taste after you use kicker on it. So I will, well, so not so flexy, I guess. But it's certainly better than any other medium CAs or gap filling CAs I've used so far. The process of rescribing is always just back and forth and back and forth. You'll rescribe a new line and then discover something else that you had thought was okay is now just a little bit off because you've added new scribe lines and something doesn't quite line up. Also, you'll always make errors when you're scribing, so you'll overscribe or scribe past a corner where it should be, so you have to fill in those. That's true of new scribing as well as rescribing, but you can just keep going and going and going. It's never perfect, and you just go until you're satisfied with what it looks like. The red 1 is significantly different than red 5, as is red 3, I would guess, and red 2, or blue 1. So much so that it would probably be advantageous to just fill it all and start over. I did not do that here. I'm unclear as to which one would actually have been more time consuming. You can see here I've cut a slot for access under the droid plate to anything internal you might need to get to, like armature or lighting or whatever. That'll add complexity to the molding process, but you might as well have it in there now. The sanding sticks I'm using are Stevens International. I'm not sure what they use for an abrasive, but it's probably like an open coat, and I don't know if it's garnet or not, but it's not soft, it's sharp, and it cuts well. It does fill quickly, so you have to clean them out a lot, but it cuts nice. And if you're trying to sand something flat or trying to flatten something better than it is, or in this example, trying to sand the high spots off like the CA glue, you want something that cuts more like a file instead of like smoothing something over. I'm not looking to smooth it over. I'm looking just to cut it flat. This is Mr. Hobby's Mr. Finishing Surfacer 1500 gray, thinned about 1:1 with Mr. Leveling Thinner. This is how you want to put primer on if you don't want to reshape or re-effect or smooth over stuff. You can get this super thin and still have it cover. My spray booth is set up in my house. It actually has a vent that vents to the outside, big 12-inch commercial vent, and the air comes from a basement compressor, so I don't have to listen to the compressor run or anything. Just quick hair dryer to get the flash off so I can see if I needed to add another coat or not. Thanks for watching. Check out the description of the video for links to the forum posts where I'm posting this build as well. And see you on the next one.